All right. Think we're live. Let's go. Welcome to the weekly roundup for February 6th, 2025. I'm kicking it off today because I have a little rant to start off things. I know, Terry, surprise. The studio here, my home studio uses MindBody, and I've noticed that when I am signing up for classes using the consumer app, that now I'm getting ads from MindBody for other businesses, other services when I sign up for my class. And it's kind of annoying. I think it's really kind of weird. Like it pops up with, do you want 50% off your first month of HelloFresh? No, like it's
Oh, so God, oh.
right. Uh-huh. So my question is to studio owners, did you know this was happening? Were you informed by MindBody? And is it another reason to jump ship from MindBody?
Ooh, you are feeling feisty today, Carol.
You
Oh
know?
my gosh. I I'm like a little flabbergasted just how this saga continues. I was saying off camera to Carol before Terry, you jumped on even that like unfortunately MindBody being the juggernaut that it is still in the industry and being sort of like not the very first, but basically the first of significance in terms of CRMs for studios, it takes extra shit. Like the expectation that we have on it is high. Other platforms do stuff very similar, and we don't really get too nose bent out of shape on it. But then also, not to their defense, you're the fucking juggernaut of the industry with hundred like at your peak. I can't remember hundreds of thousands of studios using the platform. It's just they've so obviously, and I've been saying this for a while, we've all been saying this, like I guess lost sight of who their core user is. And
Starbucks. They're
we
like
clearly I
Starbucks.
don't get the numbers. Like clearly I don't get the numbers. I find it so, and I must just be way the fuck out to lunch here, right? They must just get so much volume of clients using the MindBody app that then that direct to consumer small percentage, if someone clicks one of those ads that they get because of that volume, must just be so astronomically higher than we understand that
Possibly.
that just makes sense versus people canceling your platform or whatever. Or maybe I'm just out to lunch and like maybe there's a bunch of new businesses that are signing on to MindBody that I don't know about.
Well, good point. I mean, it's a
But
lot.
I, but I don't know any.
Yeah.
I know a bunch leaving. Like I don't know.
And that's a good. Have they left side of the core values? I was just reading an article about Starbucks. Starbucks has been in the news a lot because I spent a lot of, although less. 2025 is the year of savings for me personally. My goal, year of savings. And part of that was Starbucks because seriously, I was spending 25, $30 a week at Starbucks. Because I'm not just buying a coffee, I'm buying, $5, $6. I think what really broke me for that is the day I looked and I went, oh my God, this beverage is almost $7.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Anyway, so like they were talking like has Starbucks lost sight of who they are and they're trying to like bring that back. And maybe your point, Josh, maybe MindBody could potentially have lost sight. And also, like you said, I think, and I've seen this for a while, is especially what's more when they got in with ClassPass, is I think maybe not is have they lost sight or are they confused with who they are? Are they a B2B or a B2C? Right now they're trying to be both. And I think maybe that and then that and within, for B2B business to business versus B2C business to consumer.
Yeah.
And in that is there confusion about who they really are and who they really serve. Because in my humble opinion, I don't know if you can do both effectively.
Well, that's a good point. I'm trying to think of an example that would do both, and there are a few out there, but I can't off the cuff right now come up. It'll come to me, but like there's so few and far between. I'm struggling to pull one from my brain.
Yeah, so there you have it, right? The fact that you can't instantaneously, oh, this is a company that does this really well is like in the initially I think the app was just easy booking. And now to your point, Carol, it's become a commercial platform for consumers.
Maybe does this entice studio owners to do their own or the branded app then? Because then maybe that's part of the reason they would drive somebody to upgrade to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be another.
The weird thing is that their number one sell point, and I don't say that lightly, it really is their number one sell point for new businesses coming in or people buying businesses and looking to switch platforms to look at MindBody is their direct to consumer. It's that they can legitimately say, and it's true, that they are the only platform that has its own marketplace of consumers where you can be discovered and people end up coming
Yeah.
into your studio. That's true. No one else has it, or at least not robust enough for it to even matter. And
Well,
then when
and
you compound that with ClassPass, not that that's really what you're signing up for, because you can use ClassPass in the other platforms anyways, but it's that is their core argument. I think the thing that I would add, I mean, well, maybe before I go there, Carol, the question is, do you now have a subscription to HelloFresh?
No,
Right.
I'm annoyed.
Like that's actually a sensible ad for that
yeah,
platform, you know? Uh,
Right. The other
and
ones I've seen are BetterHelp. I don't know what else. Like I really and truly just try to get rid of it as quickly as I can.
to go,
yeah,
So
I'm
get the
gonna
fuck
go
out of here.
look. I'm gonna go look right now. It'd be interesting to see what ads they serve up. And I bet you they are like a HelloFresh or anything in the wellness space, more health related.
Well, I mean, I don't know what server platform they're on, AWS or whatever else. Like, who would even be running the ads? I mean, they're not choosing them. It's some algorithm from some third party. It's probably Google or something, right? That's like that they're now considered in network with Google or something like that for placement. The bigger question is, can we run ads on it? Could the Yogapreneur Collective run
Oh, there we
ads?
go.
That would make sense. Like, here, I'm going to lip off about it all day and be like, this is dumb. Maybe you should consider looking at something else. And I would put my ad there, no question. So maybe that answers part of the motive. I think the problem here becomes you're a single location yoga studio, Pilates studio, therapist office, whatever. You just want a platform that just fucking works and does its stuff. And you want to be able to get a human on a phone or get an answer to something if you have trouble. And then you think of where resources are allocated. This is a signifier of resources being allocated on that side, the B2C side of the business. And meanwhile, there's an ever-growing list of complaints on the B2B side and hiccups and whatever else, which like that's normal on a SaaS platform, but it's beyond normal, I would say, on the mind body side. So that's where it's just frustrating because it starts to I don't know. These tech platforms, I think that people really, how do I say this without totally sounding like an asshole? Because I'm talking about myself here. When I owned my last studio, I really actually thought that someone at MindBody gave a shit about me. I actually believed that. And the truth is, they don't even fucking know you exist. You are completely irrelevant. You're a number on a page. I know, Terry, you're not liking this. I know you're not going to like this,
Well,
Terry.
no, I was
I'm
going to
not
say,
talking about the human beings who work at MindBody. I'm talking
okay,
about
yeah,
the corporate organization and the hires up and whatever else.
I would concur.
In the end, you're just a fucking number on a page, and they have their bottom line that they're trying to get to, and it's way more than you think. Like they're just playing a bigger, different, completely different game than you are as a single location studio.
Yes, I would concur. I would concur with that. And at the same time, it's it's not just my body. I mean, other software
No,
platforms. It's actually what it really is it's corporate America right now. Corporate America 2025
yeah,
is it's all about getting their lowering their corporate taxes and delivering their shareholder value, and that's what they're interested in.
it's going through an overhaul. I'm not defending it. You're absolutely right, but like it's going through an overhaul right now because it's been so fucked up for a while. Like things got way out of hand. It's why we saw like all these SaaS companies getting these, 5, 7, 10, 11x valuations on them. It's like, how the hell how is it possible that you can have a company that is not profitable and doesn't cash roll itself at all, but the value of it is 11 times, like not even EBITDA, because EBITDA is negative. It's
Yeah.
11 times its cash. Like that doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a totally different game. Mind Body is clearly preparing to be consumed by a larger VC fund
They're going public. They're going
or
public.
going public. Yeah,
No,
those are the
they
two
announced it.
steps.
Don't you
They
remember
did announce it. Right, right. So there you
last
go.
year they announced it
That's all
within,
this is.
yeah, it's 12, they last year, I forget when exactly, they said within 12 to 18 months they plan to take MindBody public again, which makes sense because when the VC, was it Vista Capital, bought them,
Yeah,
brought them, they had gone public and then they brought them back private right before the pandemic. And I
yeah.
mean, you even talked about this, Josh. It's like typically it's only like a 5-year time frame that these people, and I think it would have been sooner. It's just because of the pandemic.
Yeah,
And
these guys aren't working in 20 years. They're not building legacy brands, not usually. Like some are, and there are legacy brands out there, but again, it's a different thing. If you look at business as an asset that you create more value and then sell because you've created more value, that's the primary game. The only other game is cash flow, is that you have a brand that is so solid in positive cash flow that it's a money printing machine. Then you would keep it. But you got to think of how many moving parts are in a mind body, right? Like, but what makes it valuable when you go public or to sell it to someone else? And the public thing, that's a kind of a weird conversation. Most of these VC companies, one of the first questions they ask in the few rooms that I've got to be in and listen to what they ask, because that's the indicator. It's not what they accept or what they fund. It's like, what are the questions they're asking? They're asking about direct to consumer, always, 100% of the time. They're looking at it from a data standpoint.
yeah,
Everyone is talking about money and they're talking about people. How do I have a platform that gives me attention control over the largest number of people within a niche segment of the population? That's valuable. Hmm.
yeah.
What? I don't know, Carol. Other than us running ads on there, like, is this the straw that breaks? This isn't that big of a deal, but it is just more proof, is this the straw that breaks the camel's back, so to speak,
Yeah, I mean, and the thing, it's like, and I've heard this kind of like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And in terms of, a lot of people are, should I switch off not just Mind Body, any platform, right? It
Yep.
is, if there's, I think the thing to recognize is that there's no perfect platform. There's always going to be things that you don't like about it. There's always going to be, having to come up with workarounds for your specific, unless you have someone who writes a platform specifically for your business with all your unique intricacies and things you want it to do. You just need to be mindful of that. There is no perfect platform. And then the other thing is that um, if you do decide to leave one platform for the other, you need to learn how to use it. This was my big thing with Mind Body, and everybody's would dish Mind Body. It's like, well, you need to have someone on your team, regardless of the platform, who is like the resident expert in it so that they know how to use the platform. That's sort of like my rant is like, if you're going to invest in the software, you should know how it basically functions because you always hear, oh, I have to call, I don't, tech support, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's like, there's a lot of resources to help you learn how to use these software platforms. And are you taking advantage of them?
Well, half of it's just trial and error too.
Yeah,
Just do
some
it.
of it's trial and error for sure. And, to your point, Josh, I even think it's hard to get a human on the phone for anything these days. Everybody's
Yeah,
going to chatbots.
yeah.
So you just,
Well,
I
to
don't
the,
know.
no, you're right. And to the defense of that, as much as like there is a little bit like get with the times, the truth is, so there's been a lot of maybe slightly premature movement to help suites and chatbots or whatever. Premature in that it's so hard to get the answer to the question. and to get the actual support that then you become frustrated as a customer. That's the part that's premature. But that's gotten way the fuck better. Like if we remember pre-pandemic 2018, 19, if you jumped on a chat bot and tried to do stuff, it was like shoot me in the face. You just ended up putting your email in and trying to talk to someone anyways. It was pointless. Whereas like now, I don't know, a good example I could think of is Delta Airlines. Airlines are all shit, Delta included, in my opinion. Worst customer service of any business on the planet. And I had to change flights because of the fires in LA. So our trip earlier in January got canceled. To get someone on the phone, it was like waiting time is uh,
Eight
slightly higher
hours.
than normal, 78 minutes. You're like, what the heck? Like, what? Who's in the phone? But but you can get on there. They're like, do you want to have us send you the link to the chat? And then the chat's clearly some lady in India or somewhere else in the planet, but they only have enough power to do this much. But in terms of simple stuff, it was awesome. You
Yeah.
instantly are on with them, chat back and forth. This is what I want. They say this is what I can do. Do this, and then it just happens. Awesome. So it's like half automation AI and half a real person. So that was an example of like that was a much and personally like I can do that as I'm working asynchronously. Like that's actually a much better scenario.
I like the ones, and I mean, I know my body has this feature, and I used it a lot, is that you can, would you like us to call you back?
Yeah.
Which I think is a great feature. And it's like, okay, I have this problem. It's like, okay, would you like to hold, or would you like to, and I always just call me back, and I would just push two to call back. Is this the number? Verify yes. And then like you said, I would just work, but without actually having to hang on, you know, on the hold. So actually one time I had to try calling the IRS. I mean, yeah, I tried to
Never
call,
making that call.
I had to call the IRS. It was early days with my business, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know, I tried, blah, 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 2.5 hours on hold.
Nice.
And they did not have they did not have a callback feature. So I just put the phone and I just had it there. And of course they played the worst music, right? But it's like, yeah, 2.5 hours. I think we're, like you said, we're at a point where, and this is something we small business can lean into, is that makes the human connection even more important at our physical locations, as a
Yeah.
yoga studio, because this is where we can outshine everybody. Is
Mm.
that human to human interaction is where, which is why, again, I have a lot of like, oh, I'm not making phone calls. We won't make phone calls. I always advocate make the phone calls, even if you're just have a script if you're leaving a voicemail, right? Well, nobody ever picked. That's okay. Leave the voicemail, and they know that you're calling, right? To check in, to do whatever. And I
Mm.
think having those touch points, those human connections is what will continue. We talked about this, Josh, earlier with AI and all that stuff coming on. This is it's the emotional, the human interaction that's going to be the of such high import as we move in further and further into this century.
Carol, what do you like for the going back to the straw that breaks the camel's back thought to what Terry's saying too? Like, okay, the big bad corporatization of blah blah blah. Like we can bitch about that all we want, but what's actually the issue for why this might shift the perspective of should you jump platforms or whatever else? I'm just
Well,
thinking about like why do I care? I mean, I don't know. I'd be curious what you think.
I think, I guess I'm hearing you ask like, well, what we are talking about right now, everything's those big bad corporations, big, they're trying to save money, they don't care about you. And I think for a long time there weren't options. And
Mm,
I think we're seeing right now in the industry, there's some pretty, like you said, Terry, nothing's going to be perfect,
Right.
but you have more options than
Yeah.
MindBody.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are really like we just saw the Arquetta demo and I was really impressed.
Yeah.
and they are feeling like they're going to know you. They're going to, you're going to talk to somebody on the phone. They have everything under like their marketing suite looks like it actually works.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if, I don't know, just some things that with mind body that have been really, really frustrating for a lot of my
Yeah.
clients.
Same here.
I think that
100%.
are, yeah, that are like now being, I think these smaller upcoming companies are like, well, we can do that better. And I don't know, just seems like,
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting because we posted Moments just got acquired by this big
Mm.
corporation.
right,
And
right.
so, and it started again, a smaller company that started, I think the owner is a young guy from one of the Eastern European countries and started out there and built it up and then sold it. So it'll be really
No,
interesting.
no, they're from Yale, him and his partner. He's Eastern
He's
European,
Eastern European, but I
his
think they built,
family,
yeah,
but they're from the States.
that's right. They're from the, but
They're
I think
from an Ivy
they're,
League school, and this was their graduation project.
yeah, that's right. I knew there was something.
It's actually interesting. They're like, this was it's like they're like, oh, like this is our graduation project, and then let's just turn it into a business. And I'm not talking any smack, but they also clearly have access to money somehow, family money, friend money, whatever, because they bootstrapped it.
Yeah.
They didn't take a bunch of investment. I think eventually they did take a little bit, but like that's what's interesting about this sale is that these guys have built this thing. Max, they've been on this. How long has it really publicly been going? 3 years? Four?
Um, Kind of right around the pandemic. It was
Right.
like right during the pandemic. And what's really interesting, just from a personal thing, is that they were acquired by Club Essential Holdings, and Club Essential Holdings is here in Ohio. They're in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. This is a
So,
big company. They own
yes.
Club Ready and what's the other couple platforms? They have a couple platforms now, but
Yeah.
they don't have one
Oh, they were
that,
founded in 2020, Moments.
there you go.
Um,
Right. So, and founded like year one is means you're just building your MVP. Year two, you beta test. So they've been going for 3 years, like
yeah.
where people are signing on and it's a serious platform, whatever. And they've done a lot of, because they were called Ribbon originally. We have a
Yeah.
couple, we have a couple of studios who signed on when they were still Ribbon. And like I
They
was
have
there as part of the vetting process. And like it didn't, the platform truthfully didn't do very much then. It was real small. We thought at first it was going to just become a another version of like a lightweight fit degree, like
yeah.
really cheap, but just did a couple things okay, and that was it. But they've really put a lot of development effort in.
Yeah, they have it's Club Essential, Club Ready, Excerpt, 4UP, Innovatives, TAC, Vermont Systems, Rec Desk, and Camp Brain.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
Club Ready is one of the larger platforms for franchises. It's
Yeah.
like it specifically handles that better than, well, I wouldn't say best, but like better than standard.
Yeah,
But
but it's also going to be seen like to your point about getting bigger and customer interaction and things like that, because I did hear from clients that had Moments that their customer support was really good, that was you could get somebody on the phone, blah blah blah. It'll be interesting that happens because I have an account over in oh sorry, I just hit the wrong button. No, not in Meeting for All. That would be horrible after last week. We don't want to do that again this week. Um, that a small startup in the Netherlands, but it was a company, a small, SAS in the Netherlands, and a client that, they were great. You could pick up the phone and talk to the dude that, it's like, and get things fixed and do this and that. But then they got bought by a bigger SaaS company in somewhere in the EU. And he said after that, it all just went to shit.
yeah, and that story is common because
Yeah.
you've got to, and I'm not saying this to talk shit, but rather just like perspective. Because I think as a business owner, if you're running your yoga studio or whatever, like you got to just have your head on the ground of what you're doing for your business,
Yeah.
and to have some basic view of the larger everything gives you perspective of like where you can put effort and where it's just like not worth it. Whatever. I digress. The point would be that story happens because when a larger company buys a smaller one, like what are they doing? They want to leverage economies of scale. So they're going to start to employ systems across multiples of them or try to make things more efficient or whatever else. That's one of the first things that, and that's logical that that would take place. But with that comes some of these changes. And I don't know that it always gets worse, but I can't think of one single circumstance ever where we've seen it where a company gets bought and all of a sudden the customer service gets better. Like that's, I can't think of an example where that's happened. That's just the truth.
Well, it just goes if you have, 1,000 clients or whatever it is, and you get bought, and then you get bought by a company that has 20,000 clients. You just, yeah, the economy, like you said, the economy of scale. There he goes again. It's so funny when you get the desk coming down, John. Um, anyway, but yes, so it's kind of going to be a segue into talking about tech platforms and things and systems is I post one up this morning. I mean, the thing came out this week with Walla. I'm segueing into the click to cancel.
Well, hang on.
Right.
Let's go to click to cancel. Say we're on tech day
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
what I thought.
But the straw that breaks the camel's back thing, I think what you were saying, Terry, and spinning off of Carol, what you were commenting on, like it's not really about, yeah, let's get upset about the big bad corporation necessarily. It's just, can you get the help that you need from the platform? Because you operate your business through the platform. So you
Yeah.
need to be able to do that. And then also, how does it build your brand? So if every time I go to the platform, then I'm already branded to MindBody. I talk about it as MindBody. Now I'm seeing ads that I don't get any revenue from. So like I'm driving my clients to, to MindBody, which then they own those clients. That's how it works when they sign up, and they get to advertise to them. And then they're using all of that data. At some point, it's like I don't. It doesn't build the customer feel that maybe I would want. So
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest for me right now. That would be the biggest reason, not MindBody specifically, for any platform for me to be leaning into it or away from it more. Is I want to have control over the experience that I'm offering my customers.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say is in terms of, with MindBody, they certainly have the data to help with industry trends. And that is definitely one thing that is really cool to have because they do have access to all those end consumers and just that behaviors and what's happening in the
Do they
industry.
use it though? I got to challenge this, Terry. I don't know. Do they actually use it? If you look at any of their last bold stuff, like reports, they just hire a third party analyst company to do a statistical analysis. They don't even go into the mind body system and leverage it. Like they definitely have that data and they are definitely leveraging it. I don't think they're producing any results publicly with it.
Well, they share it out to the community, and based on that, you as a business owner can make decisions or like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. I don't
Like
know.
what?
Well, for me, I still remember sitting at Bold was it 2017 or 20, maybe it was 28, I can't remember now. It was one of the Bolds. And they talked about the average consumer of fitness has 2.6 memberships.
Right.
And that was like really eye-opening to me. And it really was like an aha moment because all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't have to, it's like all I need to be is one of the two. I don't have to be like, I would get like, oh, I have a CrossFit or I go here or I go there. It's like, okay, go there. And then now you can come here for these things. So it just really was like I said, an aha moment. It's like,
Mm.
oh, all I have to be is one of the, I don't have to be the only one, right? It's okay if they have that. I always felt, oh, I have to get them to give that up to come here, or they have that, they're not going to come here because they already have a membership at wherever, fill in the blank. But then it
Yeah,
should,
they do. They have produced some consumer data. That's true. I'm thinking
right?
more on the business side. They haven't benchmarked the industries as well as they. I mean, I'm sure they have, but they haven't publicly posted that or whatever. But any company, no one is. Again,
Yeah.
this is not just like shitting on Mind Body. I argue with Laura at Walla all the time, right from the get. I know it's part of their vision. Whether it gets there or not, I don't know. But I'm like, man, if you produced a monthly report on certain benchmarks across Walla clients, like that would be so fucking. I would go to the platform almost just for that. That's not entirely true, but like it's just so valuable and we can't access it otherwise. I guess before we spin over to the click to cancel, this moments thing, the early comment that I made on moments is I'm concerned that it's going to become the next wellness living. That was my concern because they were selling pretty cheap and growing pretty fast and offshoring all of their development,
Yeah,
et cetera, et
that's where
cetera.
the Eastern European thing came in my brain.
Well, he is too.
Yeah, no, but that makes, I
But
mean,
which like cool, hire people from anywhere on the planet.
yeah,
That's the world we live in. I don't really care about that. But the question then becomes like if you're just hiring a tech team somewhere else that doesn't understand the culture, the end user, or the product, then there's always a disconnect in communication between what we're trying to develop and the purpose of it and the developers and what they think is a good idea and et cetera, et cetera. So that's a common thing in tech development to have a conversation around. The point would just be that like what are VCs buying? And they're buying volume, right? A VC is going to look at it and say, in the announcement, it said that Moments had 4,800 studios on the platform. So let's 5,000 for the sake of talking. We'll just round it easy. They're looking at, I've got 5,000 businesses paying a monthly fee already. So whether it cash rolls and is super profitable or not, whether that's the case, that's leverage that I have. So the concern for me always is when you look at a purchase like this at this point, I'm sorry, I hit my microphone, based off of their behavior to this point, is that this could be a pretty drastic and abrupt shift. And what I mean is like 1 to 2 years, where moments just becomes another mind body now. I don't actually think it's gonna become a wellness living. It's gonna go the mind body route, maybe.
yeah.
That's my prediction. Where it's like they have to produce money off of this now. So they'll keep developing some stuff, but it doesn't even mean service will go down. It just means the way that whoever's at the top looking at it, like their job is to make it profitable and increase in value to get the ROI on their investment. And they're going to be trying to do that in like a 5-year time frame. So I would put any money on the fact that prices are going to go up in moments because it's way too cheap and has been from the gate. All the people who switched to it chose it over a wall or something else for price. Like hopefully you get grandfathered in. And I think that where it's developing things, we'll see it lean on the side of the consumer side, not the business side. That'd be my prediction. And you'll see these, it'll be sneaky, not sneaky malicious, sneaky smart. They might just straight raise prices, but what they'll do is they'll start chunking things out. They'll say like, okay, well, here's a new feature. We got to pay extra for it.
Well, and they've already
If you want to
started
be
to
on
do
this,
that.
you got to pay that. Or now we have this different payment processor you got to pay for. That's what'll
That
happen.
they'd already started to do that. I mean,
Right, exactly.
like
Yeah.
with for the core software, it's I forget because I have several clients now on Moments, and they have some basic emails. But if you want like the full on marketing automation, it's just like MindBody. It's an add-on. You have to pay for it. If you want this, it's an add-on. You
Yeah.
have to pay for it. So, which in some ways I don't think is a
It's not
bad.
bad.
It's not a
No.
bad idea. It's kind of like some of the real cheap airlines, right? It's like if all you want is a seat on the airplane and you can carry with one little backpack and you don't care where the seat is, you can get a cheap ass ticket. But so if
Well,
that's all you
okay,
want,
yes.
yeah,
Dude,
hold
I
on,
love
hold
this.
on, hold on. You know, if that's all you want, then if you want to check your bag, you have to pay this. If you want to pick your seat, you have to pay this. If you want, and it's like, so you actually you decide. It really, if you think about it, it really gives you, the consumer, the freedom and the flexibility to decide how much do I really want to pay. It's kind of like,
Yeah, I get it. I get it. But
yeah,
like, can we objectively, airlines have gotten so fucking much more
well,
shitty over the last 50 years. Like, we are exponentially more expensive to exponentially less service than ever in history on airlines
okay, so
with
maybe
no
that's,
controls on it. No, it's actually the perfect example, Terry. You're so right because it's
wait,
actually the
wait, wait.
perfect example.
Did we Josh just said I was right.
You're so right. Asterisks.
Oh, damn it. There's an asterisk.
No, Terry, you're right all the time, dude. You're so right. But to me, what happens is then if you want to fly somewhere, this fallacy of choice is what they're leveraging. It's like, well, if you just want a plane ticket, who the fuck flies anywhere and just flies? Like, who doesn't bring anything? Flair Air, the new one in Canada, it's much cheaper, and Canadian airlines are notoriously expensive. You can only bring a personal item, and there is at least 4 checks. At the check-in, there's a check. At the going through security thing, there's a check. There's another check at getting on the airplane to make sure it doesn't go 1 fucking centimeter outside of that size, or they force you to pay. And then they actually incentivize the people working at Flair and pay them money if they find a bag that's oversized and charge you. So they charge you $50 and that person gets 10. So they've actually behind the scenes built their whole system to try to get these extra money things. So it's this fallacy of choice where it's like, well, if you only just want to go on the plane, or like this much for the bag or this much for that, like it's all bullshit. It is the point. And I get it from a business sense. When we talk about SaaS, though, that's what's happening with some of these SaaS companies, and that's where
It's sort of choose your own
I have
adventure.
an ethical problem with it. I feel like it's not. It seems like bad business.
I don't know. Is it though? It's like, okay, with the SaaS program, it's like, here's the basic platform. It does all of these things. It checks all these boxes, right? The basic things you know, and it's this price, particularly if you're a newer studio, whatever. It's like, maybe you don't need all the bells and whistles just yet. So then you have the base platform, and then you do. It's like, okay, if you want to add this on, it's this much. If you want to add this on, so that again, it is somewhat of you choose your own adventure. And if you bundle it, it's like, hey, I just want to go all and get everything. Okay, then you get a discount for if you want everything included, or you can do it a la carte. I don't know. It's like
Yeah,
what do you
when the
think?
SaaS it's hard to argue against. I don't really think, but I would say the same thing. Like if you just want the plane ticket, it's like, oh, if you just need the base thing, just use the base whatever. Base mind body, I don't know what's included anymore, but in the day, base mind body, it was like you might as well just fucking run your website and an Excel spreadsheet. It did nothing. You could check a class in barely. It was there was no point in doing it. So it was this like you get to say that at this price point, but it's the plane ticket where you can't even bring anything other than a personal item, which like who is doing? I don't know. Saving money on the ticket so you can just go buy new clothes everywhere you go and you just can't get home. I mean, I guess so.
To answer your question, with a starter package in MindBody, you just get the team schedule, inventory, revenue, unlimited users, access. So they access to 2.4 million monthly shoppers and point of sale. That's it. If you want branded web tools, widgets, you got to add that on, and nothing else.
Right, so you can't even put it on your website. Whereas you can get a Wix
unless
website,
you yes,
50 bucks
correct.
a month and use its booking platform.
Yeah. I have no idea what I have no idea what that costs.
Yeah. This is the thing. It makes sense. I'm just saying these are all these weird little manipulation, tweaks, fallacy of choice things that like at some point it just starts to get silly and you've got to just talk about things more real. If you run a business in the United States or any Western culture where you're checking people in, you got to have payment processing, you got to have a class roster and be able to check them in. You've got to be able to go back and do reporting on the things there. They should be able to sign up off of your website. Like any other industry on the planet, those are free most of the time, everything we just said. That's not even something you pay for. It's just because it branches into physically someone in the studio and you need a platform there that then there's a pay thing. I don't know. It gets silly. We're going in a circle here. We gotta get Carol. We gotta get Carol. This thing here.
I'm glad it stirred up so much
Yeah.
discussion.
This is Carol.
mysterious
You guys watching or listening to this, you think that it's Terry and I dominating the conversation. This is why Carol's mysterious. She just comes in the room and it's like, I'm just gonna drop this bomb right here.
And step back.
This fucking says that. Oh my God. Carol, click to cancel. What's up with that?
Well, I think we've spoken about this recently because um, well, is it the FCC? Is that what it is in the
No,
United
yeah, the FCC, the Federal
FCC? Yeah.
Communications Committee. I think
Yeah,
that's
something like
for.
that. They came out that I guess this year we need to have a really simple, quote unquote, one-click solution for somebody to cancel their membership. And I think this is sort of fighting against the old gym membership where you had to go in person, talk to a manager, get the hard sell. So they're trying to push back against that. So Terry, I know, has been talking about, having a one-click solution or something really simple, self-cancel from the website or somehow for a long time. And Walla, I guess this week finally sort of came out with their one-click solution.
Which is
Um,
kind of one click, because I mean, it's like it is one click in that the consumer, like in the Walla app, can just go click cancel my membership. But then Wallet has yet, and I'm hoping that they have this in the queue, which is actually that like it cancels the client's membership. But at this point, what happens is they can just click the cancel, and then Wallet sends an email, an auto email to the uh, it a message in the software to the
Process the
studio.
cancellation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they actually now have on the dashboard in the reports, it's like cancellation requests, right? And so then they're there, and then someone still has to, whoever, the front desk, whoever's going to do it, still has to go in and manually cancel the membership. However, what it appears is it really is a one-click cancel on the consumer side, because they just have to click this button and that's it. And so we were talking a little bit about what you said, Josh, is the FCC actually says it has to be as simple to cancel a membership as it is to buy it. So one could clearly say, well, if it takes 3 steps to buy it on a website, then you could have 3 steps to cancel. And I'm just like, just make it easy. And actually, Holly made a comment in the post that posted this morning about why I think it's a good thing, saying that it's, as she noted, it's really not, and it doesn't actually cancel it, which you can actually in MindBody, if only they had it in the app. But in MindBody, you can actually terminate your membership online, and it cancels it with some caveats there.
Well,
However,
I think Wallace, this is a good example of like, this is where policy and rules do force things
yeah,
to happen, right? Like this was already in Wallace's product development plan. I know
right.
that for a fact,
Yeah.
but things get pushed down in priority. So this was not a priority of development versus other stuff they're doing. There's got some cool AI shit and stuff that's coming out.
I think if
That's
they brought it to this is their interim
this
solution.
moved it up the priority. So this is their band-aid.
Yeah.
This is their like now we're compliant, and I'm very sure there will be more development on
Yeah.
this.
Oh,
But
100%. Well,
I think we're going to see a lot of platforms that don't currently have something like this. That's what'll happen. Is they're going to have on the consumer facing side somewhere to go to click for cancellation, but technically what happens will probably just be a message to you, and they'll pass the burden on to you to deal with it. Which whatever,
so
that's a good starting point.
what I want to address is Holly's, and I'll respond in the message as well, is that she's like, well, what happens? And this is a good point. This is where you say policy. She said, well, if someone clicks to cancel, Saturday night and their membership bills on Sunday morning, and we don't see it until Sunday afternoon or, Monday, they still get billed. So this is where you said you have the policies. You can still say we require X amount of notice to cancel your membership. You can still have that as a policy.
Yeah.
Um, and then again, as long as it's really clear, like I've been working with clients and just in particularly in Walla, because you have the widget that has the pricing and all the details, like what's included and things like that. A lot of my clients, I've been saying, let's just in there have the very clear policies that there's no contract, no minimum. However, to cancel, we require this, and this is what you do to cancel. So part of it is that yes, you can still have policies in place, so that you have a little window to do the cancellation.
I think the policy plus this one click cancel ruling plus, like, first off, we've been talking about this for 5 years. Like, this pre-pandemic, we were talking about let people self-cancel because this is always such a tension point for studios. And truthfully, if we're talking about ethical business practice, like making it harder to cancel to make it annoying so people stay on, like that doesn't make sense. And I think most owners are past that point, although we had that.
Well, there's
But
still, I have to, there still is a little bit of
it's
that.
still there. It's still
But
there.
I mean, like, really, do you really need 2 weeks minimum cancellation? I mean, seriously.
Well, this is the point, is the policy stuff, I think, in a positive way, we're coming to a time where it's culturally normal. In some cases, there are arguments against this, where ease of operation starts to take precedent over everything else on the business side. And on the consumer side, it's a cultural expectation that I'm able to do certain things. And this would be one of them. Like the whole idea of like, it's the same way back for any of you guys who've been in the game for a minute. Way back, we didn't sell autopays. Autopays were uncommon. And when they did start to become common, the two things were that your autopay was actually more money per month than buying like a 3 month pass or a 6 month pass. Because we used to sell 3, 6, 1 year, whatever. And so it never made sense. So not a lot of people went on it. It was just like their preference. And then we would also charge a sign up fee.
Yeah.
It's like it's $25 to sign up and then $125 a month. For what? Like what bullshit was that? It was just, oh well, because we used to say, because I've got to, if they sign up, like I've got to go in and make sure that something blah blah blah, or like I don't want them to get too cheap of a deal. And then there was also like you have to sign up for 6 months, and stuff like that. That slowly all dissolved because the truth is it's horseshit. You don't actually need it. Now, I'm not saying you can't do those things, but there has to be a specific reason for it. So consumers have, sort of expected that that's not the case, less and less. I think this is just another piece of that puzzle.
Yeah. And the point of I've been numerous rants on this, and the point of the post is that make it easy for them to cancel. And then so they walk away with a good feeling. Then you have the after, then you can still go out and try to save that membership. You can still or you can still go out and get data, and that's where the human connection comes in. It's like, hey, Carol, we're so sorry to see you go. Just real quick, we'd like to, and I know that you can ask the reason why. And if they say financial or this or that, you say, hey, I just want to let you know we have this, this, and this available, if that's of interest to you. Right. I know you can have that in a funnel where there's an email going back and forth, or a form that they fill out with all of that. And at the same time, let's just make it easy.
Mm.
Cancel and then do the after.
Well, here's the question, Carol. In the email response back to two-parter, with the clients you're working with, if I have to send an email to cancel and then you respond back and then there's now an email exchange back and forth, as a percentage, how many clients do we save from canceling?
Very few. I mean,
Like, I
I,
don't
I
even
think
have the
there's,
number on it.
yeah. I mean, with all this discussion, the thing that I did really, really, really like as a studio owner was the reason for cancellation. So at the very least,
Yeah.
if I have that, then, because one, it was peace of mind for me. Because
Right.
before I had that information, I would think, oh my God, whose class did they take? Did something happen that I'm not aware of? I would go to worst case scenario. And then when we started getting that feedback, it was like, I'm moving or I broke my leg or whatever. It was usually something that was very benign and, nothing that needed addressing other than we're sorry to see you go.
Right.
So,
And there is, like, in Walla, and you can put reason for canceling, and people can
yeah,
type in their reason for canceling. So because I was looking at this yesterday with a client in Walla, and it says right there, Carol Stokes canceling reason, she
I
just
hate
cannot stand Josh's class,
yeah. Yeah.
right? Or
Took
moving
Josh's class. That guy's an asshole.
Josh's class, that guy's an
Cancel.
idiot. I'm never coming back, right? But no, it says there's a reason. I'm moving,
Okay.
just not using it, any of the reasons that you want to have in there that people can
As
click,
long as
right?
that's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you're probably not going to save anybody at that point. And I think the admin lift can be really heavy at times.
It can,
So I don't
It's
know.
huge. Yeah, it feels like huge effort for little
Yeah,
little
yeah.
payout. The
and
two the two points I think to be made that we make often is like at the moment someone's canceling,
they're gone. They're
like
gone.
there
They've already
most people are already done. Like you're too late. If you're gonna
been.
save them, you missed it. You needed it 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever. But then the other detail here is like it's the idea that as an industry, we do things a certain way because it's the way it's always been done. And that doesn't make sense. That's not actually how things work. So I think that the expansive perspective for this is just because someone's cancellation has technically completed in the system doesn't mean you can't try to save them then. So we're just moving when and how the
Exactly. That was the
conversation
point.
happens.
Yeah, that was the point of my post is let them cancel. They know that it's canceled, and then you can reach out to them. And to your point, I've been saying this forever and a day. By the time someone cancels, they've already made up their mind. It's particularly if it's like I'm not practicing enough, other than like an injury or I'm moving or something like that. But something that's more controllable is we know because of numbers that the average months on membership is 4 to 6. So what are you doing at month 2 and month 3? Right? So let's get them to go longer,
Yeah.
right? So where I've been working with clients, and if you haven't, what's your membership? We always, with a lot of this, is like we have the nurture campaigns for direct to membership or the campaign from intro to selling to a membership. And then it's like a back void, nothing happens. It's like you've got these campaigns built out and then they terminate, they stop. So what are we doing for a membership nurture campaign that is ongoing? Not just the first couple of months. If we know these vulnerable points, then what are we doing to that? And I'm, again, picking up the phone. What if they got a call from the manager or even the owner? Or, there's lots of touch things you can do to make people still feel special. Also, just looking at running reports and saying, okay, Carol, my gosh, Carol, who's a member, she hasn't been in 2 weeks.
Ring her up.
Outreach, call her
Yeah.
up. I mean, people say, well, what can my front desk do during class? These are the type of things that front desk people can do, front desk staff can do while class is in session, rather than sitting on their phone or doing this or whatever, or taking class. Have them run reports and reach out, have a plan for calling members specifically who haven't been in and checking in with them. And then perhaps that will help people from canceling later down, because that's my point. It's like, what are we doing before they even think about canceling?
Can I
That's
side comment? The whole like, what do I get my front desk to do while they're in class? I'm not making fun. I'm just like, it's literally laughable. It's just funny because infinity things. There are infinite things that they could be doing that are simple and that can help you out. And I don't know, this our higher performing studios for sure. My last studios, I know Carol, you and I have talked about it, your studio, like just there is no time for the front desk. We had the reverse problem. There's not enough time. We started expanding the hours of the front desk shift where it's like you're not just showing up 30 minutes before class and leaving 30 minutes after the last one. It's like you got to be there 90 minutes before and an hour afterwards because there's just so much shit to do. There's not a other than their break, there's not a single moment where they're just like, well, go on my phone for a second or whatever. Like,
the one that I'm always incredulous is in the evening, that whatever the last class of the day is, that the front desk checks that class in and then goes home.
yeah, that one is baffling to me.
Yeah, and I said that I had one client, like, so all those intro people that need to be talked to after class, because we know the teacher's not going to do it. Nobody's talking to them,
Or the
which,
teacher's going to say something, but like your whole system of nurture breaks down.
yeah. And there was like all, it was like just sort of like a total aha moment for the owner. They're like, oh, and
Also,
again,
also just so it's been said, we've spot checked this. So I have to say that this is a little bit more like case study than hard data across the YC.
right.
But on our spot checks for this, if you were to choose the time of day that first visit people come to the most to a studio, it's the late evening. It's like the 7 p.m., 7:30. It's the last class of the day. That's not your busiest class. It's just the one that the brand new people come to. Like, oh, I'll try it out tonight and go with my friend Carol. And that is typically one of, if not the highest performing first visit person classes that you're going to have. So you've got to think that they're coming in with like a transition between two of your busiest classes. So you've got to really be on the ball there. And then afterwards, if it's the last class of the day, unless you have a really late class, then it's like half the time. Because the other thing is the front desk leaves, but they turn some of the lights off and the music off. It's like it's half shut down. So you come in and it's all like this and whatever. You go in and they're like, see ya. It's this sense of like get out. It's the end of the night. I don't know. It just that part's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. I agree. It's weird. Um,
Click to cancel. I think here's the other thing. One studio in particular, we've tracked this pretty diligently. They allowed easy cancellation, like the policy was like 24 hours notice or something or whatever. And then the manager team specifically would phone every cancellation and had a little bit of a funnel. It was like phone, email, text, phone again. So they were actually getting the conversation. The two things that were surprising from this were that one, they got way more people on the phone making that call than the other calls. Like welcome call, mid intro call, whatever else, those were harder to get people on the call. The cancel call, for some reason, people picked up the phone. So
Interesting.
I read into that what you will. I don't know. It's one studio. The second thing is when we averaged it at the time, this is a few years ago, over a 6 month time frame, they had an 11% save rate, which doesn't sound like much, but that's triple the industry average. Like it's so much higher. Now they had a really good downsell or whatever else, but I read into that as beyond the downsell and the effort going in, it's what you're saying, Terry. It's like, I want to cancel, I'm out. They do it. Then we talk to the manager and they're like, hey, Terry, I saw that you canceled. I wanted to check in. Like, are you okay? What's going on? And like, it's just your pal calling you from your friendly neighborhood yoga studio who actually gives a shit about you. Is there anything I can do? Oh, it's just financial right now. Well, we have this other option.
Yeah.
11% makes that worth it.
Well, here's something going back to, doing something in a nurture campaign to keep people from canceling. So here's a thought. Maybe not everybody's going to turn into a lifelong practitioner, because I know, Carol, I'm sure you see people at Pure Hot that signed up with you like 10 years ago that are still practicing, right? Yeah, 100%, right? So that's sort of like the unicorn. I mean, that doesn't happen. Every studio has that, like OG people have been coming forever and a day. Again, and we know from data, 4 to 6 months on average. So if right now your average months on membership is 4, this is where this is like, you want to talk about real numbers and like, oh my God, this is like insane. I'm leaving so much money on the table if I put a little investment in nurture. Let's just say you got 50% of your canceled members to stay even one more month. Okay. And let's say you averaged in a year 300 cancellations, and you got 150 of those people staying for another month. And let's just say your membership is $150 a month.
22,500.
Thank you. That's an additional $22,500 right there.
Yeah. That's a part-time employee.
That's a part-time employee right?
Or your vacation.
Or your vacation
Your whole family's vacation to Mexico.
to
Like
the
a good,
summit. This is how you
that's
pay
the
for the
summit
summit.
and a vacation.
And a yoga
That's
sales.
22,500. I mean, like you can go bigger than that, but
Oh
you
yeah.
could take a family of 4 for a week and ball out pretty hard for 22,000. Like,
And if you have a lot more, it's like I can tell you that was just that was just the sort of a low ball for an average studio. I mean,
yeah,
a smaller studio, but if you have a bigger studio, so you could not only pay for the summit, you could pay for a yoga sales boot camp, and you could pay for a YC website that's going to get even more members
right.
just by doing a few of these simple things. Huh.
I was just thinking for even your smallest studio, let's say you have 100 members. If you were to get a 10% save, right? And save being like the one more month of just 10% of them. So 10 times, we'll do a smaller number. By 100, there's $1,000. You're at 12 grand. But like, if you're a small studio with 100 members, if you dependably produce $1,000 more with no more ad money, not really any more administrative lift, no increase in pricing, no extreme influx of new people in the door, no, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the money on the table equation. It's just get 10% even just to stay the one more month.
Well, I
That's the difference between you having margin or not. I know $1,000 isn't a lot, but when you're starting out, it is a lot.
Well, and I just looked at one of our longer term studios, a studio that has a lot of members and multiple locations, things like that. I just popped in, looked at their KPIs. And if they had saved half of the people canceling one, if they had stayed, if those people had saved one more month, that's almost $100,000 for them.
Right. It exponentially
It
grows.
exponentially. So, it's like rather than, stressing over, oh, I've got to save these people. What are you doing to get them to even before they decide to cancel or getting them to stay one more month? What's your strategy there? I would spend that money on that as opposed to, oh, admin time and I'm emailing back and forth about trying to keep someone from canceling. So
Yeah.
there we have it.
So I know we're going towards the end of time. The couple of the things that come up in my mind around this is I think that, and rightly so, I'm a proponent of this. I think hindsight's 2020. I'm not saying I did this. I did all sorts of dumb shit in my studio that I had to learn, like, well, that doesn't work, like all sorts of stuff. I had the 3 month minimum commitment at one point.
And a
We had
year.
a year, right? Like
Mine was a
we did.
year.
That's why we get it because we did it and we're like, well, that doesn't work. Like, so I can, and side note, I can remember as soon as we got our pricing right, dropped this sign up fee, dropped the commitment, our our monthly members literally doubled overnight. Like in a month, they doubled. It was just, and my team was happy, like everything. That's old school, whatever. The point though is I think we're going to move much more towards this proclivity of ease, being like, it's easy for me to sign on and it's easy for me to sign off. And that's going to be the expectation. I wonder if it's going to come full circle where now there will be a heightened benefit to the strategy of optimizing for LTV, for selling the bigger thing. Maybe not on day one, but your numbers are gonna start to look like, oh, I've got all these monthly members, but I've got all these monthly cancellations. And to your point, Terry, of like just one more month makes a big deal. If they're canceling at the third, fourth month, it's like at the second month, if you were to get them to upgrade to something bigger, you would, double or triple the revenue. And more importantly, or equally as important, they would theoretically practice more and longer, which is really what's necessary for benefit. So I wonder if that's the direction we're heading with all of this stuff. Because you don't need one click cancel if you buy an annual. You just need a pause and refund policy.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. I'm not saying sell annuals. I'm not saying not sell annuals. I'm just saying someone's going to misquote me and be like, Josh said just start selling annual passes to everybody all the time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's other levers to pull here as well. Yeah.
Yes, and in the beginning, start by your monthly or weekly memberships because you want that cash coming in on a regular basis, as opposed to.
Carol, what do you feel about this? Like, I've been playing with some alternative pricing option concepts for a while on paper because I'm a nerd and that's why. So we know that the weekly membership model works. Not in 100% of cases, but like it works.
I have a client that opened in September. They have 178 weekly members.
Right. Like that's great cash flow. We know that the monthly no commitment and we know that direct to membership, like I think intros more and more and more are going to disappear and shrink because it's not how the buying decision's being made. So we know that that works. We know that annual is good for LTV and there seems to be a resurgence in just like making the decision to commit. So what about a pricing model where you have weekly, monthly, annually? Like that's the only thing you can buy. Or you could do daily. We talk about like our day pass. It's like you can buy by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year.
Well,
That's the actual model.
I've said this before, when I first started practicing Bikram way back in 2002, and the studio I practice at, they had two pricing options. They had a 10-pack and they had an annual. That was it.
Yeah.
There was no drop-in, there was no intro offer. It was a 10-pack or an annual. It was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I'm not sure I would go to that model, but like there's value in that.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Well,
Carol.
the client I just mentioned when she opened started with
Or Terry.
the weekly unlimited. She didn't even start with an annual. She now does have an annual, but it was weekly, and then a drop-in. Now she has a weekly, a drop-in, an annual, and she does have a 10-pack, and then she has an auto 5. That's it.
Yeah.
And Carol, I saw something you had said. I thought this was brilliant what you said. I do have a call coming up in 6 minutes. I happened to see your response to a client who just opened a studio, and someone that was a friend of a friend, and I could get a 20-pack cheaper at this studio. Your prices are high, and I thought your response that I meant to tell you, I'm going to say it on live, was brilliant.
I got really fired up about that
by what you said. I was so impressed by what you said, and I'm going to steal it for the future.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a brand new studio. The studio owner was like, I have a friend of the family who noticed that my 10-pack is the same price as my competitor's 20-pack. And he's asking if I can get a deal. And I got fired up. It's like making me really mad right now too. I said, first of all, I looked at that competitor's pricing page and their pricing model sucks. And I can tell you 100%, if we looked at their books, they're losing money. And she actually on the next call was like, in a roundabout way, I found out that franchise isn't making money. Like the owners are like, I'm embarrassed to show you because we are not, profitable. So there's one thing. And then the other part that pissed me off is if it's a family friend, they should want to support you and pay for your services. Like that I was so mad. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, of course, there's that hospitality and service, and you want to maybe give certain people, I would want my family to have free classes. I would want like my best friend to come in for free or whatever, and maybe give them guest passes or something. But like this guy like that has money, because I was like, no, he can pay.
Yeah.
Here's why you need a coach, because we get real fired up for you. You want someone else in your corner ready to go to bat? This is what a coach. This happens to me too. A client tells a story and I'm just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
We also are measured in our responses and understand, whatever. But you can vent, and we get it, and we'll be right there with you. the thing that you're bringing up, Carol, too, with this is like by asking me for a discount and making me feel bad about my price versus someone else, not only is that rude, I think, and presumptuous, but also you're taking away from me the joy of me offering a free class to you. Like if you're actually my family or friend and I get to be like, hey, Carol, like we're close. Don't worry, class is on me, dude. I'm so happy you're here practicing. That's why I'm going to do that as an owner. But you to come in and be like, I need a discount because 20, like,
It's just,
yeah, I don't,
Yes.
I don't like that. I don't like that.
I'd say check them off, fire them as a friend, divorce them as a friend. I mean, that's
Well, or just whatever. Friends are just laugh at them. We had a friends and family drop in. At the
yeah,
time, the normal drop in was $20. Friends and family was 15, which meant if you were on auto pay or something, you were paying less. You're paying like $10 a class at the time. So it wasn't the best deal, but it was for exactly this. And we called it friends and family because it was the one thing that we empowered the whole team. We're like, if you've got like, don't make up some dumb bullshit, some dude you met last week and you've never whatever. But like, this is the leverage point you have. You offer that to anyone you want. I don't care. Or we also used it for there's two other towns that were 2 hours away from us, and that's where we would have had other hot yoga studios. If someone came from one of those studios to do a drop in and you found out, we would sell them that drop in and tell them just to be the nice guy
yeah,
studio, you
yeah.
know? And that went a long way, but it was on our accord. And it wasn't like you get some huge discount on 20 classes and now I owe you 20 classes. That builds resentments.
The other thing that I did too, and this is one that's kind of like, why do you do that? Is your interest for locals only. That always pisses me off. It's like anybody could buy mine. I didn't care if you were out of town. I would always say, hey, you can do it, and just you visiting friends, family, let them know about us.
Mm.
Right? Spread the word. And I got some positive Google reviews for that. I had one dude that did it, and he ended up he was on a temporary assignment. He was a contractor working for one of the whatever in Massachusetts, and he was there for like 6 months. He ended up being on a membership. He ended up bringing in three of his colleagues who became members. He was in that 6 month. He was a high LTV, and all because I let him do the intro.
Yeah.
Right? Hey,
I'm
listen.
not pro or con the rule. Like there are cases for it, but to your point, Terry, there's also this goes to the one click cancel too. Administratively, like where do you want to focus your effort?
Yeah, and your energy.
Like, oh, are you local here? No, you're not. Okay, traveler pass. Okay, wait, like just fucking sell them just tell your team. If they're new, sell them the intro and
Well,
move on with your life. Everyone will be happier. In a lot of cases, that is a smart move.
yeah, because there's a studio here in Dayton that everybody raves about, and I haven't been there. You want to know why? Because you have to be a local and you have to show proof of residence to buy the intro. So you have to buy a drop-in online, and then when you come in, bring your ID, and then they'll upgrade you the intro. And I'm just like, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. So I've
Poor
never,
Terry. She's the
I just,
principal. It's the same for me with studios. I'm like the principal of the thing. I
yeah,
can't go to this.
I can't go to the studio because it just they piss me off right from the get-go. Hey, listen, guys, I got to end this
You gotta
meeting.
go. You
I
gotta
gotta
go.
go. We gotta go. I got a client that's waiting.